Thanks, Jerry. So we always are prepared to honor, and I think that's the part of this that makes it a little bit unique. We don't take for granted what we're doing, and it's not just. And thank you very much for the kind words, but it's not me. I have a fabulous team that is working very hard at all times to make sure that those recognitions are spontaneous. So when the moment presents itself, it cannot be lost. We have to be sure that we're there to recognize. So appreciate all that, the thoughts and the sentiments. But this is another form of what change means within the VA. I think the VA itself has recognized that it hasn't always been the most tremendous partner with the veteran. And so last year, the Mission Act was passed on June 6th of 2018. And now we are just a mere days away from making this now come to fruition. And there are a number of different things that are impacted by this. And I really want to do this for the sake of brevity, but you will know that these are available to you. These, the pamphlets that you have, that's the very simple version of this information. So if you want a snapshot of what's going on with the Mission Act, that's there. This presentation is actually more in depth and provides with a lot more baseline information that will be able to instruct you, and you can now be part of that training effort to help other veterans. That's why the Community Veterans Engagement Board is so important. As we proliferate this information and start taking it to the veteran, like we were talking, there is no wrong door for asking a question about where to go for help and how to learn more about what the Mission Act means. So let's skip right forward to, let's see, okay. So right here, where you are, right care, right place, right time. That's what this is all about. You say, well, what didn't Choice do that? Well, Choice did not exactly do that. If anybody's worked through the Choice program, that was not the program that would have been established had there been probably sufficient time to go through and see what the veterans' needs are. So we're trying to overcome a knee-jerk reaction to enable to provide more localized, veteran-specific, veteran-oriented care. And that's why Mission Act is so important, because this does change. And it provides not just the veterans with information, but the VA with much, much better tools to use. And I think this is going to be the strong point in all this. The tools that the VA will now have to create that environment, meaning when a veteran calls and is asking specifically whether or not they're eligible for care, they have what's referred to as a decision support tool. And that decision support tool will have a lot of information that is automatically extracted from the veteran's information that the team member, whoever they call, whether it's the MSA, whether it's the doctor, the nurse, the eligibility office, they can be able to see immediately whether or not there are pre-existing eligibility issues. So if you are already grandfathered in, for example, under the 40-mile rule for Choice, then you're automatically eligible for under the Mission Act. Yeah. Keep going. Keep going. So.
One back? One more. No.
Keep going.
One more. There.
All right. So I'll just read off a few of these bullets because these are very important. I don't want to jump too far out of my presentation, but due to the time crunch we were on, I want to make sure that put the center of the care in the veteran. We always say that, right? The VA always says that they put veterans in the middle of their care. But have we really done it? Have we really finally made that commitment come true? That's what, when we talk further, this is all about trust. Performance equals trust. Trust in itself does not just say, oh, well, we've got a new program, trust us, it's going to work. The only way this is really going to work is if we perform. And That's why when we keep on saying that we put veterans in the middle of our care, we really mean it. And are we going to back it up? Well, we are going to back it up. We want to make sure that as veterans, this is a totally different way of looking at it. When you say, how long does it take to drive to get to the VA? It's an open-ended question, right? Depends on whether or not you live in downtown Los Angeles and it's rush hour, or you live in Franklin, West Virginia, and you have a dermatology appointment. There's a big difference. How quick, how far, when. So with the new rules, the way they are, it is now. So drive time for primary care, mental health, and for non-institutional services like long-term care, you have a 30-minute drive time. 30-minute drive time for primary care, mental health, and non-institutional care. That's one. For specialty care, it's a 1 hour drive. 1 hour drive. So that's the drive time standard that has changed. The other part of this is the access and how well are we doing with regard to our average time that it takes to establish an appointment. So much like the earlier, it was what, 30 days? Under choice? If we can't get an appointment done within 30 days, then you're eligible for choice. Well, okay. Is that realistic? Maybe, maybe not. But it's not really the community standard. So the decision was, and the VA had a very big part in making this decision, is to say, well, let's try to establish what the community standard is and match the community standard. So again, a 20-day time to be able to establish an appointment should be reasonable from a community standard. It's what Tri-West uses, and TRICARE has already established this as a part of their, if you're a DOD and have that. Some of the community already uses a 20-day appointment time frame. So what that means is for primary care, mental health, or again, the non-institutional care for long-term care, 20 days should be the established standard. And it's 28 days now for specialty care. And that's the average. You say average, but it is the average not for all appointments, but the average for the specialty or the service line that you're looking at. So for example, cardiology. If you need a cardiology appointment and we have a 35-day average appointment time, that means you are eligible for care through the Mission Act. Eligible for care through Mission Act. That means, though, this is a key factor in this, that means that you have the eligibility to do that, but you have to work with your providers, your team, in order to make sure that we're still coordinating your care. We have to put in the consult to make sure that that care is available to you in the community. And why is that important? That is important because we expect that you receive quality care in the community. And the providers that we're working with, and we're still trying very hard to establish all of the providers that we need in order to be part of that network. So that is something that is still going to grow. Today, if you go into va.gov, I think it's va.gov, or unless it's changed from mission.
Well, there's missionact.va.gov and va.gov, but they will both take you to the same place.
Right. So if you want to be able to determine whether or not you have access to those community resources, you can actually see what providers will be part of the network. That's a big difference now. You'll have the ability to go in and see who is out there. Who are the providers that are part of the VA's community care network? We're still working to bring those team members on board. It takes time, but it's a never-ending, effort to try to make sure that our network is wide. It's not, places like WVU, Valley Health, Meritus, but even some of the smaller homemaker home health aid groups that are in the community. We want to make sure that they're signed up with us so that as we make these referrals, then we know when the bills come due because they do, when the bills come due, we know that you're receiving your care and the bills are being paid. So one of the chief complaints through the Choice Act was that veterans were receiving bills from their providers because the VA was not paying their bills timely. There are more tools now to help us get that information directly from the vendors, the doctors, the other providers, so that they get into our system and the bills get paid rapidly. But there still should be no expectation that the veterans are going to be responsible for that. Unless, of course, there's a copay.
I got a nice letter yesterday.
You got a letter?
Yeah, from the VA. They haven't terminated my coverage, so I'm in good shape there. But anyway, it told me that I can go to an urgent care if I have to.
Bam! So I'm glad you brought it up.
I thought it was really nice.
So urgent care is the next and most interesting benefit as I see it. It was the one that I had the most questions about when I saw that it was on the list of services that are going to be available to all our veterans. That means if you have a non-life-threatening, non-emergent, but urgent issue, something like a minor, what's that? Minor cuts and bruises, the flu, something of that nature, you don't have to drive all the way to the VA or even the community-based outpatient clinic. You can go to a local urgent care center that is part of the VA's community care network, and we're still working on collecting all them too. And you can go there and receive your care.
Without pre-authorizing it?
Without pre-authorization. Now I took my training, so this is a clear test. And Dr. Davis is here, so I'm probably gonna screw this up. But there are really different ways for urgent care to be authorized. For one, it has to be at a VA community care network provided facility. It can be pre-authorized care, meaning if there's under a specific legislation, there's 3 different laws that allow us to provide emergent care in the community. And it follows that same line. And I don't want to get too complex, but I will say is that if you're a category 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 veteran, you can go to the urgent care, and that's a part of the community care network, I think up to 3 times without having to receive a copay of $30.
Awesome.
And then, so category 6, 7, and 8 veterans will have a $30 copay.
That's doable.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then, if for the category 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, if beyond 3 appointments or beyond 3 episodes of urgent care, there will also be a $30 copay. That's the very basics of it.
The other point about the urgent care is you have had to have been seen by the VA in the last 2 years.
Good point.
Because what the VA doesn't want, we don't want people to replace primary care with urgent care. So we want to make sure we're still coordinating your care. The urgent care is just a benefit for those minor things that you don't want to go to the emergency room or your primary care for.
All right, so these are a little bit more about the eligibility. So I mentioned the already being grandfathered in under choice. I mentioned the access, and let's see. Must receive approval from the VA prior to obtaining care from a community care provider in most circumstances. Most circumstances really refers to that urgent need or emergent need. Enrolled in health care without needing to be eligible. Let's see. Must be enrolled in either VA healthcare or be eligible without needing to enroll to be eligible for community care. Let's see. VA staff. So if a veteran right now has a question about their eligibility, they can call the VA and the eligibility office. I believe it's option number 2 or 3 or 5. It's like if on our main number, when you call in through our fantastic, as Jerry pointed out to me this morning, our automated call distribution system, you'll be able to pick right off of there the eligibility, and it'll take you directly to our eligibility office, which answer the phone generally in about 10 or 15 seconds. Not that standard. Not as good as the White House hotline, but it's still good. So that's a great way to check eligibility. There's an online eligibility check. I'm sorry, that's also out there. Okay.
So if I'm traveling.
If you're traveling.
Say Hawaii or Alaska or something, and I were to get hurt, I could just go to an urgent care, since I'm way out of my, you know?
Well, and the interesting part about Alaska, Hawaii, the Pacific Islands, the Marianas Islands, and
California.
no, but there's one of the other eligible elements for the Mission Act is if you don't have a full-service medical center in your state, then you're also eligible. For a traveling veteran, if you're traveling, first of all, you can go to any other VA that's there. We have a traveling veterans coordinator in every single VA medical center, and they should be able to work between hospitals. Example, we have somebody that just went to Florida, and they wanted to make sure that their care was transitioned down there. They let us know, we call down there, we transition their care to them while they're down there, but at any time. If we've also had veterans that are driving through, long haul truckers coming through, just driving through the area, got sick, came to the emergency department, ended up being admitted to our facility and stayed with us for an extended period of time. That's gonna be part of it. But if you just felt you need to come into the emergency room, you can still do that. What you're saying is that you can go to an urgent care appointment in any state, even if you're in a registered veteran from Martinsburg, West Virginia. And what we're saying is that if you've been seen as part of that team the last 2 years, you still have that eligibility to be seen under urgent care. It will be, depending on your, again.
And that's where the map
One
tool will
through
come
eight.
in handy on the VA's website, because you can see what urgent cares in that area that you're vacationing to will accept
Yeah.
part of that network.
It will be, like you said, it will be a map there that actually shows all the providers that are available.
Yeah, so they have, those providers, they have to be in the network,
Correct.
right? You can't just go to anybody.
So, all late breaking news, but as I was on a conference call yesterday, one of the really interesting things they're talking about is putting a sticker, a VA sticker, on the doors and the windows of the urgent care centers. They're urged to do that so that a veteran walking up would know that this is a place that is okay for veterans to receive their care. So you wouldn't have to find your phone and start looking things up. All
But
right.
if you can't find one, you can call the hotline because they'll tell you.
You
who's
can,
eligible.
exactly. You can call the hotline. Everybody should write the hotline number down. I wish I knew it off the top of my head.
You in here?
It should be, I don't think the hotline is not on that form. But we'll get it, we'll make sure that it's part of your,
At the White House.
the White House hotline.
Oh, I have it. Yeah, right there.
Yep, the White House hotline can actually offer you help.
I have it right here. It's 1-855-948-2311. It's 855-948-2311.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Joseph.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So David, I'll put it on this.
Excellent. So, let's make sure I covered everybody, all the other eligibility. Oh, this is probably the one of the more, we talked about urgent care, but one of the other eligibility criteria is best medical interest of the veteran. Now, if you don't think that scares the VA a little bit, it does. It really does. This is a change in philosophy altogether for the VA. And what does best medical interest mean? Well, it could mean that there's a service that is provided in the community that is of far better quality and availability, and it is close to where the veteran needs. Maybe they have mobility issues, maybe they have transportation issues. What is in the best medical interest of that veteran? Now that opens up the door quite wide, doesn't it? By comparison to what you've probably heard or experienced yourselves. And when you call the VA, say, nope, the only appointments that we have are for Cumberland. You have to come to Martinsburg. That's the only place that we can provide that care. And it's gonna be 28 days, so, okay. You good with that? No, but that's all I got. So I guess I got it. Thanks, I'll book that time. Thank you. Well, that's not the case. So with the veteran in consultation with the provider and their team can able to talk through those issues, and all of the staff, need all of the staff. Our training has been, and it was right in the very top line from the Undersecretary for Health, it says, you will put the veteran first. You put the veteran first. You'll make sure that as you're trying to determine what best medical interest of the veteran means, is that you're putting the veteran first. Okay? Now, it's still vague, but it is a
Did you
change
always
in,
do that?
it is a change in philosophy, no. It is,
No.
when you say, what does that mean? That means when the VA says, under choice, if you were outside 40 miles, you're in. But if you were 39 miles away, you had to drive from wherever you happen to be. And it wasn't 40, it was 40 miles from the nearest community-based outpatient clinic. Regardless of whether the service was offered there or not. It was so, you could live 39 miles away from Franklin, West Virginia, not be in choice, and still have to go to an appointment that was available because we could do it in less than 30 days at the VA.
Even though what may be most frustrating about that is, you know, I have a veteran in that exact situation that needs care and is not able to travel very far. And he has been told that he has to go to the CBOC. And I said, no, they'll have to send you somewhere else because it is absolutely pointless for you to go to CBOC when they do not offer the care.
Right, special care, right.
What sense does it make for you to go there and them to tell you they can't help you? Because he went there before trying to follow the steps he was told to take, and they literally told him when he got there, we don't have anyone to help you, you're gonna have to go to the emergency. And he said, well, are you gonna pay for it? And they said, no, because you didn't pre-authorize it at the hospital. He said, you're sending me to the hospital. I need the treatment. And, I mean, I know he's telling the truth, and I spoke to the people at the CBOC. And I'm like, if what he's telling me is 100% accurate, and I just talked to him yesterday, I'm like, that is a major disservice to them.
So part of this is to help correct those very same, and I can tell you from the VA staff side, it is the rules associated with the Choice Act were equally as confusing
Oh,
to the staff members as they were to the veterans, and trying to figure out exactly where people should go when they needed the care and where they needed it.
Yeah.
It's very confusing. So this helps try to resolve that. It definitely opens the possibility for providing more care to our veterans in the community than what we have today.
Yes.
And we're okay with that.
Right.
So that's something that that the VA has to come to grips with. And it is not an easy thing to do. We are, as we've always pledged, to be the provider of choice.
Right. And you know, in that same breath, that, you know, this particular individual, if the VA was closer to him, I think he would choose to just stay with the VA. But he can't, and there's people, because they're older and stuff, they're in that predicament when they cannot make the trip. So, and there's a doctor 15 miles from their home, but the VA is 2.5 hours from their home. So, I mean, one veteran was in this situation where, you know, I know you're aware of this situation, where they told them that they could, two very elderly veterans, and the wife went with her husband because he was very sick. They told them that they could go and wait at a McDonald's to catch a bus to the VA, so they didn't have to drive. Well, what they didn't understand was that, or what they weren't, I should say, they weren't very sympathetic to at the hospital, was these veterans had to be at McDonald's at 5 o'clock in the morning. They were waiting down there for an hour and a half, but there was some sort of miscommunication or something with that bus route for an extended period of time. And so for, I don't know how many weeks in a row, this elderly couple and many of the veterans were standing down there waiting for a bus that never showed up. And then when the bus did show up, it took a whole van full of the other veterans to get them appointments before they could go back. And that is a long day for elderly sick
So
patients.
it is, and you're describing a situation that
Yeah,
I
you
know about.
And you
it's
tried to
some-
fix, yeah.
Well, but it's not fixable with the system that we have.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, within the current system, it was not fixable.
Yeah.
This allows us to fix situations
Mhm.
like you described.
They don't have to
It's
explain
gonna
it.
take time. This is
Yeah.
a learning, this is a, you know, we are a government organization.
Yeah, and a big one. so,
And we are
you know.
learning, we're learning rapidly, and people have a tendency to dip their toe in the water to make sure that that going. I'm not making excuses, but I would just say, it is gonna take some time for us to add all the providers, because first of all, when we say we can do it, we have to have somebody that we can send them to.
Exactly.
So
And I brought
smaller group practices, getting them signed up. If you know of providers that are maybe a little leery of working with the VA, maybe because they've already been burned one time, or twice, or 3 times, because their bill wasn't paid timely, I can only ask them to try to trust us again, and prove that we're worthy of that trust.
Well, I tell you, I've spoken to